What are you doing, Daddy?
Trying to take over the world, Tyler. Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show, your number one podcast for and about black dads. I'm your host, creator Terrell Lindsay, and I created this show with the hope that I can encourage, empower, educate, and in the process, entertain fathers in a way that inspires us to be a better version of ourselves. This is episode 8 of the Awesome Black Dad Show, and today we get to chop it up with Howard and Jason Ferguson. Mr. Ferguson, who you will often hear me refer to as Pops during this conversation, was born and raised a Southern man with old school principles. Pops moved to Chicago in his early 20s, and in October of 1978, his first child was born. And from that moment on, the journey towards building a better version of himself was off and running. Today, Pop's son, Jason, is a father of 5, an accomplished singer, rapper, songwriter, and that's just the stuff he does on Saturday. In this episode, you'll hear everything from why Jason became a licensed barber to the systematic issues of welfare that were designed to dismantle the powerful family structure. And without further ado, let's get this thing started. So welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show. Appreciate you guys joining me.
Yeah,
Welcome Jason Ferguson and Howard Ferguson to the studio.
it's an honor to be here.
Yes, it is.
So I asked all the guests, or I started out in a way to get as much information as I can about and let everybody know who it is we're talking to, and the information that we can bring. So I'm gonna start with Pops. Who is Howard Ferguson?
Well, Howard Ferguson, man, that's a deep question because he's such an awesome guy. No, I'm just kidding. 63-year-old, grew up in the South in Virginia. Migrated to Chicago in 77. And just a guy who loves God, who tries to be an example for my children. Try to be a person that would respect my family in my actions and my deeds.
And my daddy. That's my dude.
Right.
I'm Jason Ferguson. I'm his son. West Side native. Husband to Irena. Father to Mallory, Taylor, Cristiano, Ella, and Brooklyn. By trade, I'm an emergency management professional. By ministry, I'm a singer, songwriter, MC, producer, primarily focusing on hip-hop and soul music, but a brother to Terrell and many others. I have tons of comrades who I grew up with on Chicago's West Side, and just out in community, doing my best to make an impact on the lives of others and taking care of my fam. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Among other things. So, so Jason and I have known each other for a very long time, and there are a number of stories that I can go into. But Pops, I don't know if you really know. I know you know we went to high school together, but in terms of how Jason and I's relationship kind of started, and why I feel like no matter the distance and no matter the time we go without talking, it really truly feels like a brotherhood. So, 94, 93, 94, go to high school, right? Jason's a year ahead of me, and I come in pretty raw, right? In terms of the things that I know. So, my mom, just to give you some background on that, my mom was still cutting my hair.
Ooh, Lord. I love you, Mom. I love you so much.
Right? And so you can imagine the things that I had to go through in grammar school and then into high school. And so it developed the character in me anyway, my mom doing these things and some of the stuff she would send me out to school in. I think I don't know if she did it on purpose, it developed a character in me where I could handle myself in those situations.
Right.
But in high school, it still was a different environment. I got roasted so bad my freshman year, right? I mean, and Jason took part in it. But the biggest thing in terms of after he got through roasting me, he was like, man, hey, look. So I cut hair. Come by the house on the back porch, man, and we can, I'll help you out.
Right.
You can tell mom to take a back seat, and we'll take care of that. And then, like, after that, like, this relationship has always been,
Man.
for lack of a better word, a brotherhood. So that's kind of how our relationship started.
Way too funky.
Please don't bring up the way too funky jacket.
Oh man.
That was another mom kind of situation.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into
Hey,
that.
but you know what though? Fast forward, when I look back at, I don't think we even understood to the extent of like, we were all in many ways touched by, the life of growing up on the west side of Chicago. And growing up, you don't feel like, man, we're poor. You don't feel like that. Our parents are doing everything that they can to raise us, to send us to the best school environments, to keep us safe. We don't have the time and the resources to be keeping up with the Joneses on everything. There's so many other things to focus on. So it's sometimes funny, the things that we even picked on each other for, looking back on those days, but the truth is, man, our parents did a phenomenal job with very minimal resources of, like I said, keeping us safe, educating us, and all of those different things amidst all of the challenges in our environment. So
No, I agree with that. Outside of the whole bowl cut thing, I think she could have did something a little different with that. But that's neither here nor there.
I love you.
That's
Mom.
neither here nor there.
We got him straight though.
Right.
I remember the first time I cut his hair on the back porch. I think we both felt better. It's like, yes, you're safe
Right.
now.
Yeah.
You may return to school.
That's actually the reason why I kind of got like, all right, I'm gonna learn. You taught me how to, like, all right, this is how you line yourself up. If you can't get to me or you don't want to go to the shop, you do
the basics.
Yeah, you do the basics, and then I kind of got into that, and that's helped tremendously.
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
So we were laughing about this just last night because I cut my dad's hair last night.
Mm-hmm.
So the backstory, and this is for your information,
Right.
the backstory on the whole haircutting things. I don't know if you even knew this, but we used to, my pops used to cut my hair for the most part. Like throughout my childhood, he would fade me up, just keep me in line. But we started to kind of like do this swap off where like 2 weeks he'll trim me up or cut my hair, and then the third week we'll go to the shop. We used to go to Will's Barbershop on 13th and Pulaski. So right off Roosevelt, Will had a shop. Will was awesome in community. There's some good barbers in there. That was our spot. We would go up to Will's, and I would get a haircut. And then like my father would kind of be the maintenance. Like he would keep it fresh for like 2 weeks. Then we would go back to Will's. And so one day we were at the house, and my dad had shaped me up. And then after he cut my hair, he started to like do the same for himself. He was like trimming his mustache and doing like a basic shape up. And I asked him, I was like, let me cut your hair. And he was like, man, boy, get out of here with that. And then like there was this pause. Then he looked at me and I almost had this moment of like, why not? Let me give him a shot. I was 12 years old.
Exactly.
And he's like, come on, let me go ahead and cut my hair. Take your time, but go ahead and do it. And he sat down. And so for the record, my first ever client was my dad, who gave me a shot with the clippers. And I cut his hair, and I did a decent job. And I think we both were like, okay,
Right.
I took my time. I did a decent job. And so after that, I started to ask him, like, hey, can I use your clippers? Because I didn't own clippers. They were his clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Can I use your clippers to cut my own hair? And I used to stand in that bathroom and hold two mirrors, or hold a mirror and, look at the medicine cabinet mirror. Clippers would be burning hot because I would be in there for like 2 hours just messing around trying to figure it out. But I learned how to cut my own hair. And at that time, my guys at Heffron, my cousin DeJuan, my guy Marcus, Marcel, Maurice, it was a group of us, Amrod. We were all at the same time finding the pair of clippers around the house and we're learning how to cut our own hair, cut each other's hair.
Right.
So by the time I came to St. Mel, I was certified West Side barber, you know. So,
Right.
but that's how I got to that point. I don't know if I ever shared that. I cut hair all throughout high school and college and beyond, but I don't know if I ever even told you like.
No, I've never known that story. So, with respect to that, do you remember that time when you allowed him to like cut your hair? And like,
I do.
what was your thought process in terms of?
Well, the thing that happened is that I was wearing a style where you just put the guard on and just went through and evenly cut everything. I said, okay, well, how can you go wrong? So I said, it's this opportunity to get an experience. So I said, okay, let's go. Come on. And he gave me his head so that I could do my practicing on it. So I said, why not? So I knew it would come for a great benefit down the road for him. So I said,
For you
let's go.
too.
Right, because he's still cutting your hair to this day. Like, oh yeah, my barber's in town.
That's right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's pretty dope, and I appreciate you. You doing that because it led to me getting out of my mama's hands. And so let's move on away from that, man. I'm gonna call my mama after this. But so I want to go. Let's go way back. Let's start. You say you came to Pop. You say you came to Chicago in 1977, right?
Right.
How old were you then?
Oh my gosh, 23. I'm sorry, 23.
And why the move to Chicago?
Well, the thing that happened, I had family up here. My aunt was here, and I was in college, and I did not complete my education in the required time. So my aunt said, you can come up here, get a job. It'll be enough money for you to go back to school. So I came up, tried to get that job. Job didn't come through. So I found out that I could make it easier by going to the Park District, and I got a little part-time job. And it really didn't help to be enough to go to school. At the time, I was dating Jason's mom. So, we had a chance to be closer together, and I just popped the question. So that.
And this is 22.
This is when I was 23 years old.
Okay.
And the rest is history. I'm still in Chicago. So.
And so a bit about your upbringing in the South. You were a part of a 2-parent household?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And so can you tell me a little bit about like what you remember about your father being to you and how you've kind of moved those things into who you decided to be?
Well, it was very interesting. My father was a 2-job person. I call it 2-job person. He worked in textile mill, and he was an independent cab driver. So those were the things that he did to help us have the only brick house on the street. Now, if you know anything about the South, if you got a brick house, you coming up. I mean, you there. So he did all this. He sacrificed time and his energy to support his family. So that gave me an understanding of what I needed to do in my life to be able to do that same thing for my family. And then, like I say, the day that Jason was born, I was the first one that he looked at. And I said, yeah, come on, I'm ready. So it was an experience that I really cannot explain or cannot give enough accolades of the joy that I felt when I saw that little baby. He was laying in that bassinet,
right.
And I was able to say, yeah, that's my son. So at that time, as I tell Jason and his brother Nathan, you guys are the rewards of my life, and I thank God for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to shed too many tears in this.
I know,
in this episode.
Man.
Come on, man. let's sprinkle some. This has got to get a little hardcore or something. Let's get a little hard. No, that's so. When you found out that did you always know that you were having a boy? Did you want to wait, or did it matter?
Well, at that time, you waited. That
okay.
the thing.
No choice.
Oh, you wasn't no choice. It was just like,
you waited.
Here you go.
Ironically enough, his mom had had a condition that the doctors really said, well, we need to have an abortion because of your condition. The baby won't develop, and you might have a club foot and all that other stuff, hair lip. So my wife and I talked about it, and we was like, no, God know he has this, so he's going to be fine. So we went through the normal process of the term of the pregnancy, and Jason came out fine. He came out fine.
So quick inject. Fast forward some years. I was well into my teenage years, and I was like going through a streak of doing the dumbest stuff, making poor decisions, kept getting in trouble for stupid stuff, and I tried to use that. My mom was
Wait.
my mom was like, I don't know what's going on with you. I was like, I don't know what's going on either. Maybe it's what them doctors was talking about. She was like, boy, if you don't get out of here. I was trying, man. I'm reaching. That's when you know you out there bad, when you reach for that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
maybe I ain't right.
Yeah, you need to go get right with God at that point. I think that's when
I
you
was
got your
out-
relationship.
Out there bogus.
Yeah.
Bogus.
That was I think I was around for a couple of them times, but we won't even maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. Have
Man.
a couple more sips of coffee, get a sugar high. And so tell me about it. Can you tell me about a time when, now Jason's here and you're raising a child. Did you always want to be a father?
Yeah, I did. Because, again, like I said, not having the opportunity to have what I call fun times with my father, I saw that opportunity when I had a child.
And so what do you mean? I'm sorry.
Fun time.
Yeah.
Playing basketball, playing baseball, teaching them how to play. I played football when I was in school. And everybody said, oh, he's going to be a good running back like you. I said, well, I don't know. It's his decision to make. So he chose basketball. And I then started learning everything I could to learn as much as I could so that I could teach him. I found myself going to local high school and putting myself in the presence of one of the best women's basketball coaches in the city. And I tried my best to learn as much as I could so that I could teach him. And I found myself again in his elementary school teaching the almost overriding the coach's responsibility and trying to teach them how to play basketball. And it was fun because we even used to, on Saturdays, we would get a bunch of guys, go over to the Gold Dome and play basketball. I was able to get the gym. They were able to play and have fun. Then we would go to, we'll go to Wendy's, sit down and eat. I would have my salad bar, and they would go ahead and have their sandwiches. And it was just a wonderful Saturday. A Saturday enjoying time. And I had my chance to be that parent that I wanted to be, so that I can teach my son something that he liked, and he would be the best as that he could in doing what he liked.
So Jay, what can you tell me about a time when your dad, when you can vividly remember when your dad taught you something and it sticks with you today?
Basketball specifically?
No,
or just
in general, like that you
man.
kind of carry. I'm sure it's a ton of.
Man, that's a really difficult one. I mean, plenty of things. As things as simple as like how to change the oil on a car, to more philosophical things like how to engage other people in community, just in terms of being a respectable man, being a person who is responsible not only for himself but for others around. One thing that I used to have a really difficult time with growing up, we would be riding around the west side, like he would pick me up from my aunt's house or something like that, and we'd driving home. And as we're driving down any particular street, we might see a couple of little kids just like me, like my counterparts. I don't know them, but they're like my peers, and they're having some little scuffle on Madison, just some random fight on Madison. My father was that dude that would pull over the car, get out, and go and break up the fight. And not just that, have like a mini session. Like, hey, what are you guys doing? Look at yourself. Look at him. Y'all look just alike. Y'all can't be fighting each other. Y'all supposed to, build each other up. I'm literally like sitting in the passenger seat of the car hiding, because I don't want these shorties to see me and be like, yeah, that's dude who daddy be breaking up our fights.
Don't do that. Right.
It's like, man, Dad, why you have to get involved in this stuff? And I look at even the career path that I'm on right now. I'm putting myself through emergency management and disaster response in the middle of somebody else's fight. You know, if Hurricane Harvey sweeps through and knocks out an entire community, I work for an organization that sees that as like, no, we don't just drive past. We go down there and we figure out how to help. And I look at those types of experiences, and it shaped how I actually see myself in the community. I'm somebody who I just can't be a bystander when something is going wrong. I have to get out there and make change and help be an influence to setting somebody else's course in motion in a positive way. So
No,
I'm thankful for that.
Right. No, I thought he was getting ready to jump in on that. Is that something that you intently or deliberately tried to instill, or was it just a part of who you were and what you kind of grew up knowing and seeing?
That was a part of who I was, because I always looked at it as, if Jason was out in the street and he was going against somebody and somebody saw them doing something that they shouldn't do, let them know. You know, it was like there was when I was growing up. It takes a village to raise a child. So you don't know a person's position in life. You know, they might not have that somebody that can tell them when they're doing right from wrong. So you never know how you impact somebody's life until you say, hey, man, that's not the thing you're supposed to do, especially when they're doing wrong. So fatherhood is a much broader span of things other than just your child. Because if you're a father to one, basically you're a father to all, because of the fact that, we have children that don't have that opportunity. So I just look at it upon myself as being somebody that's helping my fellow brother. Hey, my brother not able to be around this child to give him direction, so I'm going to step in for him. And that's what I did.
So that's an interesting thought, because we have conversations all the time about what differences are. Well, no, let me back up. So there's this, what I call, myth about fathers or black dads not being present. It's part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because the guys that I know are present, right?
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent. They go through. Everybody has their struggles, but they're trying, right? And I'm not in any way saying that there aren't fathers that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. But if we don't take the opportunity to share the stories that we're connected to, then nobody ever will know the truth, because it quite honestly, people are attracted more to some negative things as opposed to positive things, for lack of a better word. So the question to both of you, what do you think the biggest differences are, good or bad, as it relates to fathers in your generation and fathers in today's generation, which would be your generation, obviously?
Well, I think that it's something that, and I guess I can safely say it crosses racial lines, because of the fact that you have people who are financially unable to sustain, so they go on welfare. Welfare system was set that, hey, we can put you in a house, we can give you money per month with your children, but the stipulation is your father cannot be in the house. Your father have to move out of state. I mean, that's where the welfare system was set up. So what did it do? It broke down the families of black people. I mean, it broke down black family structures. And in that, then it's a lesson that's learned. It's not a mentioned thing, or it's a lesson that's learned because people see it and say, hey, man, my daddy wasn't here, so I'm not going to be there for my child. So it's a miseducation of the black man, I say. But then there are some people who realize, maybe the same way that I did, okay, if I can't do it if I wasn't able to do it with my father, then I'm going to do it with my child. So therefore, the fathers step up and take their responsibility, and they try their best to do it well for all of the knowledge that they have of what they should do. Then that it becomes something that then we can be able to get back on the right track. But we as a people have been hoodwinked and bamboozled, if you really want to look at it in the way that I see. Now with my generation, again, the fathers were around when I was in the South. You know, so we knew fathers were there. It wasn't too many households that was broken. But only when I came to the north to see that the welfare system separated everybody, I'm like, oh my gosh, your daddy not in your house with you? And then with the comes to the generation of Jason, again, perpetrated with people on welfare, then father can't be in the house. Because I remember when Jason was born, that was one of the things we thought about getting to the point of getting some assistance, because I had a job that I was an apprentice. And in the winter, we don't work because it was a construction job. Ironically enough, Jason was born in October. So the winter was right around the corner. Financially, we needed some assistance, but they threw that thing out that, hey, we can give you assistance, but the man can't be in the house. So we dealt.
Wait, so that was a real stipulation?
That was yes, it
like,
was exactly.
Like, we'll give you, well, I guess I don't want to say that makes sense, but it doesn't.
It does. I mean, like,
so I get it. Like, if you have, to some degree, if there's a man in the house, then there's somebody that theoretically should be there to help provide.
Well, so let me ask this question: If the logic is the man shouldn't be in the house, because if there's a man in the house, you shouldn't need this assistance. The bigger question is, what can we do to empower that man to work? And that's the question that was never asked and or answered.
Exactly.
Right? It wasn't it would make sense if there was some deliberate effort to empower black men to work, or I shouldn't just say black men, but men who families who are impacted by financial crises to actually work. And if there's nothing deliberately being done to empower that, then this is a destructive system and not a constructive one. So that's the issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you say it like I knew that, but when you say it like that, it's like, yeah, they had to go. And so when you look at the amount of money that was coming in, the woman in that situation was given an option to say, you're worth more to me gone than you are in this household, right?
Well,
and so that the transference of power to some degree has now gone to, or in that situation when it was started, obviously to the woman, and then to the system that was created for that.
Exactly.
And I mean, to a man who wants to take care of his lady and his children, he, even from a hard posture of sacrifice, is like, this is not ideal, but I'm gonna do what I have to do to make sure that my people are eating. You know, like, I don't know that many of us could truly fathom what it must be like to live in a society where you can't just go out and like cultivate your own crop. You don't own the land, so you can't just go and like farm and make your own food. To know like what it must feel like to seek employment, but you're being told that you're not qualified to work there because you're not educated. But you're not educated, like, there's this ripple effect. You're not educated because you grew up in a community where the tax bracket meant that your school got the worst of the worst in terms of resources and teachers and books and so forth and so on, or the violence in your community because of, you know, the poverty. So the level of preparation is not adequate for success in the legal economy, but the expectation for success in the legal economy is still at the same standard that it is for the person who has been prepared. So I couldn't even imagine like knocking on every door, and particularly like you think back to 60s, 70s, you know, more so then than now, but sometimes even still prevalent now, where people could flat out see you walking in and say, I just don't hire black people. And there's not an illegal posture to hold.
Right.
It's like, I'm
okay,
sorry.
on to the next one.
Yeah, you're strong. You're determined. Yeah, you have a wife and you have children, but I have one job, and you just happen to be a black guy. And there's a guy down the street who wouldn't even come to work every day, but he's not black. And I'd rather give the job to him than I'll give it to you. And there is no law against that. It's just like, he runs his company. He can hire who he wants to hire and tell you whatever he wants to tell you.
Right.
As a man, I don't know how many no's I can take in that regard and still wake up the next day like, let me give it another shot.
Another try, right.
Meanwhile, your children need to eat.
Yeah.
You know, people are calling saying you owe us this and all that kind of stuff. So it's not to make an excuse, but I do think it's important to really look comprehensively at what that environment is
the
like.
systematic.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things that are happening at once.
Right. And so with respect to that generation, you can make I don't want to make the assumption, I don't want to say that, but in a time when that system started, and then men had less of an option, quote unquote, to be present so that they can provide. So not being present allowed them to provide for their families. And you fast forward to our time. What do you think is the largest difference or gap in terms of fathers and fatherhood today, even though we're still sitting in an environment where that system still exists under the same kind of premises and such?
Yeah, well, I don't have data to back this, but I think that we've become more creative in terms of the options that are available today. So I see fathers who may very well have been dealt the same cards who are now, because of technology, because of more diversified economies, they're able to find other means, many of them completely legal, to provide for themselves and their families. Whether that means that dad is present in the house with his wife and children, I'm not sure on that front, but like just in terms of having access to resources, I think black people in America have more access to resources today than ever. Now, a whole separate podcast could be on how we spend those resources once we acquire them. But I have seen us as a people do more with way less in past. So now, I mean, you look at the number of designer fabrics that you could see and, sneakers and the vehicles that we drive. Those who paved the way for us to be here didn't have that same level of spending power, if you will. But even still, we're pushing forward and making decisions in this new economy. So I don't know that there are many differences in terms of some of the pressures. I would say that there again is probably more. It's a more diversified economy or economic system that creates different opportunities for folks to plug in. Yeah, I would even say just overall evolution of society is probably more challenging now for a company just to say, "Hey, you're black, I'm not gonna hire you."
Right. So I mean, we talk a lot. We're talking a lot about provision and providing. And I think that it's a staple of being a man and a family and a father as well. So what's your take on the idea of presence, right? So you grew up in an environment where your dad worked 2 jobs. So the availability or the time that he had to really be physically present was smaller or shorter. That time frame was shorter than if he worked 1 job and he was like physically there, right? So can you guys talk a little bit about what your feelings are with respect to that presence, whether it's physically or it's me providing, going out and working 16 to 18 hours a day so that screw the system. There's a system out there that would allow my woman that would effectively be the man of this household, right? And so so what's your perspective on that?
Well, I think for either of the options, the quality of time is what you really need to spend or need to concentrate on. Whether you have 2 or 3 hours a day because you work 2 jobs to spend with your child, let it be the best 2 or 3 hours that you can put forth. Trying to be fulfill the needs that child. You got to be also an assessor. You be able to assess the okay, what do my son need today? Do I need to pat him on his back to tell him I'm proud of him and I know you can handle that job that you got in front of you, or do you need to tell him that hey man, your arms stink, let's go take care of that. You got to let the man know when his when you ain't doing the right thing. So don't be sugarcoat.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sugarcoat your obligation, because you can't be sweet and honey all day.
Right.
Sometimes you got to let him understand the sour, or let them understand the sourness that's going on. That, hey, that ain't right. We got to do this a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on, like I say, the quality of time that you spend with that child, because you can't go back and get it. You can't go back and get it.
So sometimes 2 hours is better than 10.
Well, there's a saying that I have sometimes: oatmeal is better than no meal. So whatever little bit you can do, let's do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the quality time is the most important. My two sons are not with us every day. My oldest son is in Minnesota. My youngest son is currently in Cameroon, Central Africa. So I don't get physical time with them. But every single day I pray for them. Every single day I think of them, think thoughts of them. And we obviously leverage technology to talk, to FaceTime and all of that. It's far from ideal. It's not, in my opinion, the way that it was designed, but that is the situation. And I think that every child should see their dad owning the situation and doing everything that is possible to bridge whatever gaps are created within that, right? So, a dad who works 2 jobs to take care of his family should not be seen as not present. He should be seen as doing what he has to do under the circumstances, right? Because he's not doing that for sport. He's like, you like this brick house, don't you? You like, hit that light switch real quick. You like what happens on the other side of that, right? So let me handle this, but let me also put that extra in, as Pop was just saying, to remain curious and present, even if it's a short amount of time. And so, I think that level of intentionality and how the time is spent, and making it clear that as a father, you are here to be present, to develop, to understand, to connect, is way more important than just pure time, because they're fathers who are probably always around, who are not as inquisitive or as intentional about developing relationship with their children. And I don't think that time alone, and physical time and shared physical space is, I don't know that alone that those are the answer.
Right. Or, you get some fathers that might think that, let me take him these new pair of gym shoes, or let me take her this iPhone. Can't shower a person with gifts and thinking then that's your fatherhood. I did what I was supposed to do. I gave her all the clothes she got on her back. Yeah, but what you got between her ears? You have to give that child, and if you're talking about a daughter, I think men ought to step up to give that child a sense of security, because that's what they're supposed to get from their father, for the daughter. And then if you have a son, you have to be that man to show, hey man, this is what you're supposed to do as a man. You got to give him that understanding of what his obligations and responsibilities are, not only to himself, but it's to his family.
Right.
Because as we are a people, the kings are supposed to be in charge of your kingdom. So let's go. You got to come on with it.
Fair enough. Check your mic. Make sure that is it on. It is on, right? Okay. Yeah. So I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that for me, it's about balance, and everybody's balance is different. It's really, and then the challenging thing for me is that your kids are different. Some of your kids need the level of attention that they need to be the best version of themselves is not the same. Exactly. So watching them in a manner in which when to, and it all ebbs and flows. There is no book to it. You have to figure it out. You have to be, my saying is that you have to be present to understand that. If you're not there, you won't know the nuances of your children, and understand that like Tristan doesn't need that much attention, but Tyler does to be successful, and you have to figure out how to balance that out. And in today's economy, we have opportunities available to us that allow us to be successful financially and still be flexible at the house, right? Now we can get into a whole nother conversation about wage disparities and all these other things that still bring challenges within our households. But in general, it's all about the balance and figuring that balance out from my perspective.
Yeah. I would even add that it's about communicating that balance too. Like, I think as a father, it's my responsibility to be very vocal about some of those challenges too, right? Because not talking about it and having an open conversation doesn't make the reality go away, you know? Like, there are just certain things that we're not going to be able to do in this season because right now as a family, these 4 things are our priority. And we would love to be able to do this, this, and that, but we have to wait on that because it's a team effort. And any good leader talks to the team and says like, hey, it's going to be tough, but here's where we're going and we're going to get there together. Right. It's not just, you know, like you were saying a little bit ago about like showering, you know, your children with gifts doesn't change the reality. Like, we don't own property, you know, or I'm not home with you every day. So the iPhone is not going to change that reality. But I think sometimes we are not communicating those challenges, and not just communicating the challenges, but even talking through as a family how we're going to work together to move into this next realm, into this next level. So I think there is an opportunity for dads to empower even their children to help build a family. And I think you look back in history, you even read in scripture where like children were a part of building the family's estate. You know, King David was out with the sheep, you know, like you have a role to help build capacity. So when in 2017, when you send Tyler to school, he needs to understand that this is not just so you can get good grades. You're already a part of the family business. Right. You're part of our legacy. And we're tasking you with this because you're going to then bring those resources, that knowledge, that brain power back into what we're building together. We're all in this, you know, and so that way, when there are difficult times and like you said, the ebbs and flows of, you know, what any individual in the household might need at any given point in time in their development, it's still a team. It's still a team sport. It's not every man for himself or every woman for herself.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. I don't have a rebuttal for that. Usually I do, but I'll hold it for the sake of this conversation. But so I want to know, you guys are, as far as I can remember, you guys have always seemingly been close in terms of when I've been around you, and even not, like knowing that you're in constant contact. You know what I mean? And you make sure that you know, Jason, you move around a lot, and so you know you make sure you get your rounds in, and Pop is a part of it. And understanding that, I know that for a fact my boys at some point are going to try me. And so what I would like to know, is there a time when Jason tried you and you had to, not physically, but maybe if it was, if you had to punch him in his chest and let him know who brought
There have been a couple of times.
Yeah.
I remember asking him to do something once, and he was coming out of his room, and he's going, I don't want to do that. I popped him in his chest. I said, what you say? I ain't say nothing. I mean, it was a couple of times that I can't remember specifically, and I'm sure he can go back and tell you a lot of. So, but
What about the language I used on the court that time?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I forgot Pop was also a hooper.
We were playing basketball one day, so he was on the opposite team, and they came down, and he made a bad pass, and he said a curse word, and the ball went out of bounds. So one of my teammates grabbed the ball and tossed it to me, and because I was so intent on going after Jason, the ball went out of bounds again. I grabbed him in his collar. I said, if you ever say that again, I'll break every teeth out of your mouth. that's in there. I said, if you hear me say it, you can say it. I mean,
And that was on the court. And I mean, I'm a teenager. This is my
Right.
court, 18th in California. Like, I play there all the time. You know, before my era, it was his court. That's where he played with the older generation. But, you know, I forgot that Pop was out there hooping with us. But it even showed me in that moment, even though I was a tad bit embarrassed, it more than anything communicated how much he loved me, because he wasn't just going to let that fly. Not just because it embarrassed him and it looked bad for him. I knew that what it was about for him was making sure that I stayed on the path that he was pushing me towards for my best future.
Right. You know what's interesting? Neither one of you may remember this. There was a time, and I don't know what it was. It was another hooping scenario, and I can't remember if it was. I think you caught me cursing, and for some reason, I distinctly remember you saying, "A man that curses doesn't have the vocabulary to tell to explain how he really feels." And for some reason, that has I mean, I still curse to this day, but it always sticks with me. It's like in the back of my head. So in the moments when I find myself just freely using profanity in a way, it's like I always kind of come back to that point to where it's like, you can do a little bit better than that, right? Because you don't need the word.
He told me the same thing. I remember those same words.
Yeah, and it's just strange how those things kind of they really, really stick with you.
Yeah.
Because I know, and I'll say this: it was me hearing myself when I was in college. Every other word was a curse word, and then I'm like, oh my gosh! So I stopped cursing, and I started reading the dictionary, finding more words that I could use, because man that curse a lot tells you that they have a weak vocabulary. So you got to increase your vocabulary. You don't have to use all of those words. So I mean, that's what helped me. And I mean, it was just it was self-healed situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be talking like this, because I wasn't taught to talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. I just love those opportunities, because luckily enough I helped myself. But then when I called Jason, his eyes got big as silver dollars, and I'm like, say that again, I break every tooth in your mouth out of your face.
Right.
Man.
So I want to. I mean, there's so many other questions I want to get, but we're running short on time for sure. But I want to ask a question about legacy, and from a perspective of this. From what I know of you guys have a legacy of singers in your family, going all the way back to granddad. I don't know how far back that goes, but if you can speak a little bit about the legacy that you know of today as it relates to the family history, and then what kind of legacy you want to leave for your kids.
Well, I think the music has always been in our family, because my grandmother had 7 kids. And whenever they got together, she would always have them. She said, y'all come on, sing a song for me. And we used to always, in all of our gatherings, we would sit down and we sing songs. I got a cousin that used to sing with, that former singer with the Temptations. And the majority of our family sings. We have a family choir for the family reunion. And we even having concerts, people goes, wow, y'all should put that on wax. But that was back then when wax was wax.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's always that thing. I was at a reunion for a church anniversary the other day, and I was in the back, and I was singing along with the choir. The guy next to me said, man, you got a good voice. You should have be up there singing with them. So, I mean, it's something that we have, and I say it proudly, something that we have in our family, and I'm so glad Jason has picked up on it and started, developing it for itself. Even my youngest son can sing, but he's now playing the trumpet and is doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that something that we just pick up and take on with it, Had a lot of people that, I can say this, had a lot of women that wanted to be in my family, and they wanted me to be the link. I'm like, I don't know, because they love the way we did things in our family.
Man, when you think about legacy I guess above and beyond the music, I think about a story that I heard my Aunt Marie tell me. My Aunt Marie is the oldest of those 7 children that my great grandmother had. She told a story about her great grandfather, who was John Randall Price. He was a slave. He was enslaved, I should say. He was a man who was enslaved. His wife was named Mary Price, and they were on a plantation, and Mary worked closely with the family of the slaveholders' family, and she worked inside the house from time to time. The story has it that one of the sons of the slaveholder stole money out of his mom's purse because he wanted to go and do something that he wasn't supposed to do. When the woman found out that money was missing from her purse, they blamed Mary Price, my 5-time great-grandmother. She, in confidence, came and told her husband, Randall, the truth. Like, that boy stole money out of his mom's purse, and they're blaming it on me. And as a result, they're saying that they're going to publicly punish me. They're going to whip me. And so they were a little bit nervous about this situation about to unfold. And Grandpa Randall told his wife to just stay close to him. And hold on one second. I'll hit you right back.
No, it's cool. We're gonna have to make it.
You
make
coming
it
down?
Yeah, you coming down.
Let him come down. That's all right. You good? I have to do the same thing in a second. So Grandma Mary went and told Grandpa Randall that the truth behind the story, that the young man had stolen money from his mom's purse, and that they were going to publicly punish her. They were going to whip her because of it, because they had blamed the situation on her. He understood that, it was his job to protect his wife. And now you just imagine that situation. He could have been killed for standing up for his wife in that situation. But he asked my grandmother Mary to stay with him. And when the slaveholder came and said, all right, John, go ahead and Randall, go ahead and give over Mary. We're going to whip her now. He looked at the man in his eyes and he said, if you touch my wife, I'll kill you. And the story has it that they ended up like laughing it off, like, oh man, Randall crazy, Mm-hmm. But they didn't whip her for that situation. And so when you talk about legacy, and you ask about legacy, I think the music is a byproduct of a deeper commitment to truth, a deeper commitment to loving, a deeper commitment to community, fighting for what's right. I think the music provided, the singing provides like a soundtrack for the life that I was born into in my family, and not just my dad's side, but also my mom's side. They were not singers, but music lovers, like right. Always playing music. Every household, my mom's siblings, my grandmother, they all own like record collections, like carefully curated collections of records and albums that they kept in mint condition, and you don't mess with their records. And so in every house that I grew up in and out of, it was like music, some form of fashion was always there.
Right.
But it was the way in which we celebrated the who we are, which I think is important to also speak to.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. What would you say that you've learned from your dad about relationships?
Just, man, I think one of the biggest things is like how to serve. I told a story earlier about my dad helping out strangers. I mean, like, just as sure as I've seen him break up fights in random random kids on Madison somewhere. I've also seen him pull over and help jumpstart a car of a complete stranger. You know, like somebody who looks like they're in a tough spot, and he would, hey, everything all right? Can I help you? He's shown, you know, what it looks like to be there in the tough times for people, you know, and be there when it's not a tough time. Be at the game. So I think serving those who you love is one of the things that my dad has shown. My father is not the dad who's like buying Jordans. You know, I have stories of of him being the opposite of that. Like $125 for what? You know, teaching me the value of $1 and how to not just go with every fad that hits the scene, but like more so he shows his love by way of serving and being present. And, you know, hey Pop, man, I'm over here on Morgan in Madison. The axle on my car just like blew out. The car is just sitting over here, and who shows up 10 minutes later? Pop. You know, hey Pop, I'm coming to town. Can you pick me up from the airport? I got you. I'll be there.
On time. Being
on time. Yeah. So he's shown me that has a currency, that in itself is a way to communicate. I love you. I got you. You moving? You need somebody to help take that refrigerator from your 3rd floor apartment and put it in that. I got you. Let's get it done, you know. So over the years, I have countless experiences of him demonstrating through service his love, not just to me, but to other people.
Right. And so, Pop, I know, so my kids, what I'm learning is that they teaching me a lot more than what I'm teaching them at this point. And I imagine that this is absolutely what's going to continue on in this whole process of fatherhood. So can you speak to something that you feel like Jason has taught you as a child or even as an adult, some of the things that you've seen him do, and what that thing is?
Well, Terrell, a lot of times you learn from people because of the response and the way they are, because everybody's not the same. Excuse me. Jason has a younger brother, and I'm learning that the two of them are polar opposites. Even though the same lessons are given in different perspectives, I guess. Jason mentioned about the fact about the gym shoes. We was at Sports Authority. In their shoe department, they had a basketball court bench, a bench with a basketball court on top of the bench, urethane and everything, looked just like the basketball court. He wanted to buy a pair of Jordans. I took one Jordan, and then at that time, Pippins came out. Jordans were $125, like he said previously. Pippins were $56. So I took the Pippin, and I squeaked. You know how you get the squeaks on the basketball court? Yeah. Squeak. I took the Jordan, did the same squeak. Squeak. I turned the bottoms over. I said, look, they look the same. I said, now what would you rather do? Pay $125 for one shoe, or buy 2 shoes? You can buy 2 shoes with this. He goes, that means I can buy 2 pair of shoes? I said, nope. You buy 1 pair of shoes, and then we can probably go get a hamburger with the change that we have.
Right.
So, you know, little things happen for you that for that specific child. I was just the other night, my son and I went down to pick up a pizza. On our way back, I don't know what hit me. I said, Nathan, what do you think about status symbol? He's like, what you mean? I said, okay, you drive a Mercedes, you drive a BMW, you drive a Land Rover. I said, what's the difference in doing that and, say, buying a Jeep? So he goes, well, I said the Land Rover costs $50,000 or a little more, and the Jeep might get you $30,000. He's like, well, I would be using my $20,000 wisely. I said, how? By buying a car that gets you the same place that the one that you could have bought for $30, and the other $20 you could have done something with. So, you know, I it was the same lesson, but with different analogies of it.
Right.
And I think that, and with my children, I've learned that each one's is different. and you have to approach things in a different manner so that they can get the message.
Mm-hmm.
So to come up with a specific lesson that I had with Jason, I mean, like I said, there's been so many of them. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly. He wanted to start catching the bus by himself, being a little more independent while he was in high school. This was before he started driving. So I told him the reasons that I didn't want him to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he really couldn't understand it. But one night there was a newscast, and that newscast showed the television camera in a bus pointing down the aisle, and they saw a pair of feet crossed. Kid was on the back of the bus dead. And I said, that's why I don't want you riding the bus. I said, I know it might seem strange, but I'll take you where you want to go, and I'll pick you up. But I don't trust this outside influence. I trust you, but I don't trust all this other nonsense that's out in the street. So that was one of the things that I'm not going to say there's a lesson learned, but that was a lesson I was trying to teach him.
Right.
As a parent, you have sometimes your heart in your throat because you want your child to develop. Mm-hmm. You want your child to be able to, as they say, spread his wings and fly on his own. But because sometimes all of the outside influences, it's hard. I mean, it's real hard to be able to let that hand go.
Yeah.
But the best way to show them that you love them and you trust them and that they know that that they learn what you taught them is to open your hand and let go.
And so is that one of the things that you would say that having children has kind of taught you or given you a lesson in terms of being able to understand and let go to things that are
because if you love them,
that the real world has kind of shaped you to that's challenging, but you gotta, in order to allow them to grow and develop, you have to open your hand. You can't continue to hold them so close and put them in a bubble.
There is that saying, if you love something, you got to let it go.
Yeah. No, it's really strange. I got my lesson from that very, very early. Tyler was about 2.5 maybe. And he had started walking really early. And so he runs and so we woke up one morning and he's limping. No, he didn't limp. We got up one morning and he would take a step and he would fall. Right? And I was like, what you doing? Because he's laughing. As he's falling, he's laughing. So I said, get up and try it again. So he gets up, takes a step, and he falls again. So I'm getting a little nervous because he's just waking up. I didn't see him do anything. Nothing really happened. So I asked him to do it again, and he falls again, and he's laughing. So I asked the babysitter, I say, look, am I seeing stuff or is this really happening? And so he does it again, and now I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm scared. Wife just left going to work. I pick him up, and I call her, and I say, look, you got to come back. I have no idea what's going on with Tyler. He cannot put any weight on his left leg. And she's like, what? And so she turns around. So now, by this time, I have put his clothes on, my clothes on, and I'm outside with him in my arms, walking the block. Right? I won't let him get down on the ground. And so, wife comes back. We go to the emergency room. At this time, like, I am literally carrying him. Like, feet can't touch the ground because I don't know what's wrong. We get in the emergency room, and they say, well, let's see. Put him down. I'm like, this floor is slippery. You want him to walk in the socks? And so I put him down. The little boy takes off down the emergency room hallway, and all the doctors are looking at me, and Keisha looking at me like I'm insane. And so I learned from that point, like, you can be concerned about your kids, but understand that life has to happen, right? There are things that they're going to have to go through, and you're going to have to figure out how to adjust in between, or you will drive yourself crazy because you can't put him in a bubble, right? I can't walk around with him in my arms physically all of his life, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so that was one of the lessons that he unintentionally kind of taught me, because he's rough, and because I know he's rough on his legs. He runs, jumps, and that's what boys do. And it's like, ooh, don't do that. But they're resilient, and so you get that lesson. And so in those moments, it's like I know, like, every day they teach me something different about being a man and even being a dad, and the dad that I want to be.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the other cool thing that I get from that story, too, is that your children, even though they could be 2.5, they're people.
Mm-hmm.
They have a sense of humor, just like you do.
Yeah.
They have a way of processing information. One thing that my children have taught me is that I don't have to wait until they're a certain age to engage them like full people. I have conversations with my baby girl now, Brooklyn, who understands much of what I say. She understands more than I know that she understands. I'm speaking to her now like I will be speaking to her 5 years from now.
Right.
I'm not waiting until she has all of the words in her vocabulary to start talking to her. I'm talking to her now. And I believe that even though she can't articulate back to me, that she understands, that she's processing. That even now, she laughs at certain things. She has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
She's a 1-year-old. So our children are full people. They don't.
Right.
We don't have to wait until they're a certain age to realize, like, oh, you were just joking.
Right.
And you, even at 2.5, you have an understanding of how to keep a joke even going.
Yeah.
When I get to the left leg, fall again and laugh. Fall again.
Right. No, they literally are sponges. There are things that I've said months ago that they'll repeat now, and you be like, that's where you got that from.
Absolutely.
So they absolutely are comprehending things at a level at which we don't give them the credit for. So it makes you more conscious about the things that you do and say, in those spaces. So
exactly.
I know we're pretty much getting close to that hard stop. So I wanted to ask both of you one last question. You have an opportunity to put an image or a phrase in a barbershop or all the barbershops across the country. What would that image or phrase be or say?
That's a good one, because right now my mind is racing.
Yeah.
I don't. It's hard. What's that one about? Don't tear down your bridges because you might have to cross it again. That could be a phrase, or do unto others as you have them do unto you. A lot of them pop in my mind.
I'm sure.
So
I'm sure.
Oh, and here's one. Make people glad that you're around. Don't make them, feel sorry that you came in the room.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
So I would put an image. I'll put a photo, a nice photo of maybe a family interacting, and I will put the words: "Work hard, love God, and forever shine."
Shameless plug. Come
on. Boom. No, real talk. Like a lot of the words that I actually use when I'm creating music, I think about, like, what do I want to stick with the guy who's sitting in the barbershop, just waiting for his cut.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a shameless plug to a song, lyrics in the song that I wrote, but I wrote it with that in mind. Like, how can I simply, if I only had a couple of seconds to drop something in a young brother's spirit, how can I simply convey the heart of what I want him to carry with him going forward? 'Cause you don't know everybody's situation, so apply those words to your life. Work hard, love God, forever shine.
Right. And so to segue into your shameless plug, what kind of projects do you have going on to let the people know what we...
My music website is jasonferg.com, jasonferg.com, and all of the social media stuff you can find there. But I dropped a song recently called Love from Chicago that I think captures the pride that I have in my Chicago West Side upbringing. And I, in that song, acknowledge the challenges, a lot of the challenges that we face growing up in our environment. But I want people who are in my shoes, or young people today who are also growing up in the same environment and similar environments across the globe, to not be disheartened by the hardship, but to be strengthened by the resilience that we display every single day, because we make it through some really tough times. So check out Love from Chicago.
For sure. We're gonna for those who want to hear it, we'll play it after this session is over. So we'll just keep listening, and you'll hear Love from Chicago.
Much love.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming out.
Pleasure is ours.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, I appreciate you joining us, and I'm truly grateful for the support thus far. Now, before we let you hear Love from Chicago by Jason, I have some good news. Our website is now up, and you can subscribe, listen, read the show notes, make some comments, share on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or however you do your social sharing. And most importantly, you can stay up to date with what's new. The website is awesomeblackdads.com. Go ahead and check it out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you tripping. I'm just kidding, unless you haven't subscribed. Lastly, if you have about 60 seconds, stop by the review section of the show on iTunes or Stitcher and drop us a line. Your feedback truly matters. Good or bad, it doesn't really matter as long as it's constructive. It helps us improve each and every episode. See you episode 9.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. This is for my steppers, for my Chicago rappers, for those counting blessings, you and yours, all over the world. Yo, I grew up around here, choice property, Chicago's best. Nothing less, I'm a product of Chicago's west side of town, where it matters what you've got in your chest. Hard posture for hopping over hurdles and tests. I never saw it as a ghetto, instead I saw a meadow flourishing with love and culture. From Loretto to Rush, from the county all the way to Narragansett, people turning scraps they were handed into mansions and better chances. Man, we do it the best. Beyond rich, we're abundantly blessed. Best dressed, we're abundantly fresh. Fresh linings and J's, stay crispy, the standard we set. The W is for winter, we had the battle, winter breeze and other teams, heckling crowds and referees. Big would tell me stay focused, kid. What you care if they roar for? Then we will blow them out and let them stare at the scoreboard. Therefore,
walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side. Walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side.
Apple green, Malibu on the block, beating beautifully. 18s and tweeters amplified by ingenuity. Dude who hooked them up was never formally trained, but was born with a genius brain. Yeah, we dance in the rain. Footwork in this for kicking the pain. Mama taught me how to step playing James. Monorail would bang through the speakers, and even in my mind I find strength as I reminisce on those times. Gang violence and crime, custom designed for the poverty line. Drawn to choke us, we fought to survive just to breathe. We were waiting in line for years patiently, and sometimes the wait made us lose our minds. A few loved ones tied by the ankles to dime, bags and lines, rehabs and grime. For them I'm writing rhymes, remembering their prime. But God is a redeemer, in Christ the dead rise, and that's right, and that's why
walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side. Walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side.
That west side pride and respect, I live to bring them back. This love that I project, direct, deposit that in accounts. From overdrawn to overflowing with stacks to prominence, until it's synonymous with black. The fact is, we gotta reduce the caskets, we gotta produce that magic, brick by brick in unity like the ancient pyramids. Love from Chicago, here it is, let's live.
My brother live, my sister live. My mother live, my father live. Walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side. Walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side. Walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side. Walk with your chest out, live with your head high. Love from Chicago, straight from the west side.